I'd always wanted to learn Spanish because my wife is Spanish. Most of our family don't speak a lot of English, and I had tried to learn different languages when I was in school, when I was a teenager, and that kind of put me off because I found it very difficult, that experience. So I just thought, maybe languages aren't for me. Maybe I don't have that part of the brain that can learn a language. Yeah, I tried, like, Duolingo was one of them, but a few different apps. I found different apps, and I found a few different, like, podcasts, which were kind of just teaching vocabulary. I can maybe learn a few words and get that good feeling of, yeah, I've learned an extra bit of Spanish, but if I don't use it, then I'll eventually lose it.
And after those 5 years of apps and podcasts, on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident did you feel to speak Spanish?
2.
A 2 out of 10. We've been
Yeah.
learning together for 8 months. And how, on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident do you feel to speak Spanish and interact?
When I'm in Spain with Spanish people, I'd say 8, and when I'm at home or around non-Spanish speakers, I'd say 10. That's a whole other world that's opened up to me, No, I think it's very possible, yeah. I'm already thinking about my next language to start.
Hola, Conor.
Hola, buenos días.
¿Qué tal?
Bien. ¿Y tú?
Muy bien, muy bien, muy bien. Yes, so I just want to trace back a little bit how these months have been with you. First, I wanted to ask you, why did you decide to learn Spanish?
So I'd always wanted to learn Spanish because my wife is Spanish, and when I visit Spain, most of our family don't speak a lot of English. And I have 2 daughters that are starting to speak. They're bilingual, so they're going to speak more Spanish, and they're going to be, progressing further and further ahead of me. I have a small level of Spanish, so I thought, after 4 or 5 years of being surrounded by Spanish speakers and trying apps and different things, if I wasn't learning Spanish that way, I was going to have to do something different. So I thought structured lessons was going to be the way I would have to do it. So that's why I started to do it.
Okay, and what had you tried before? You said
So-
apps for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I tried, like, Duolingo was one of them, but a few different apps. I found different apps, and I found a few different, like, podcasts, which were kind of just teaching vocabulary, some basic words. And then my wife and her friends had taught me some basic things like colors and numbers. And then I picked a few things up just being around Spanish speakers in Spain, just words that will come up in everyday conversation a lot. But all that stuff to put together wasn't enough for me to have a conversation with people. And even if it was, I didn't have the confidence to do it. So I didn't have the confidence to use the little bit of Spanish that I had.
Okay, so and that was, like, I mean, apps and podcasts for 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and after those 4 or 5 years of apps and podcasts, on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident did you feel to speak Spanish?
2.
A 2 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay, and what do you think was your biggest difficulty?
My biggest difficulty, I'm not really sure. I'd say it was probably just the confidence to do it, to make mistakes, because I think before I kind of thought that everything should be perfect. I shouldn't be speaking with people because I didn't want to look stupid or sound silly, especially because I spent so long in Spain and around Spanish speakers. So kind of didn't feel like I thought my Spanish should be perfect because I had this other experience that other people didn't have. So it was a lack of confidence.
Okay, and what about now? We've been
Yeah.
learning together for
I think it's
8
about
months,
8
roughly.
months, yeah.
8 months. And how, on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident do you feel to speak Spanish and interact?
I'd say probably when I'm in Spain or with Spanish people, I'd say 8, and when I'm at home or around non-Spanish speakers, I'd say 10.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So 4 or 5 years of apps and podcasts took you to a 2 out of 10.
Yeah.
Then 8 months of structured, planned learning to an 8/10, depending on the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's brilliant. How different do you see the learning process with the self-learning, trying to self-learn with podcasts and apps versus a structured plan with a teacher?
The main thing's probably accountability, because if I'm doing it by myself, I don't have any accountability. So I can maybe learn a few words and get that good feeling of, yeah, I've learned an extra bit of Spanish, but if I don't use it, then I'll eventually lose it. And there's nothing there like with having lessons, structured lessons. I have you to keep me accountable, and then I have homework and doing exercises and stuff, especially with the group. I can gauge, compare with other people and see where they're at and where I'm at. And maybe an area or on a topic I thought I was maybe okay at, when I compare it with other people, I can see, well, this needs work. Or likewise, if I think maybe I'm not doing too good in one subject or one area, I can say, well, actually, I'm better than what I thought. So it shows me where my weaknesses are and what to work on.
Yeah. Okay, that's amazing. Connor, do you remember how you were feeling the very first lesson that we had?
Yeah. But probably nervous and just unsure of how things are going to go.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how have you felt throughout the whole process, these 8 months, throughout the lessons, the workshops, the different dynamics that we've had? How have you felt?
I think with each lesson that goes past, just more and more confident. And uh, once you start to figure out, the structure of the language and how things work and how to maybe figure things out for myself as well, yeah, just more confident and just I suppose happy that I know that there is a path that I can take and that it's not this thing that's this elusive thing. Being able to become fluent is not this elusive thing that you know is unattainable. It's very attainable. So
Do
it's
you
good.
think this is attainable, right?
Yeah. I think you just have to know how. You
Yeah.
have to know how to do it and just do the things that you're supposed to do and work on the things that you're supposed to work on and put the time in and that's it.
Do you think when you were spending those 4 or 5 years into, well, trying to self-learn and not really have results, did you ever get to think that maybe this was not an attainable thing? This was not something possible?
Yeah, yeah, definitely did. Yeah, because I think I don't know where the idea comes from, but I think there's this feeling that you just have to download Duolingo and you just do that, and then you'll be able to learn a language, which is it's it's not true for me anyway. And I had tried to learn different languages when I was in school when I was a teenager, and that kind of put me off because I found it very difficult, that experience. So I just thought, maybe languages aren't for me. Maybe I don't have that part of the brain that can learn a language. So
And now do you still think that, or do you think that it's possible to learn Spanish?
no, I think it's very possible. Yeah, I'm already thinking about my next language to start. So yeah,
Okay, so now you want to learn something else.
yeah,
Okay, that's
yeah.
brilliant. Okay, so just one last thing, Connor. Before you mentioned that in the very first lessons or weeks, you were a bit nervous as to how things would go. What would you say to someone who has that very same fear, like, oh, I don't really know how this is going to work?
I would say just do it. Don't think that you have to be perfect to have a certain level, or just don't think about it. Just do it and start doing the thing, and then you'll get better as it goes along. And your confidence will grow.
Hmm.
Because if you just think about doing it, you're never going to achieve anything. So just start doing it. If you have to keep feeling, feel forward. That's my thing. But you will get there.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And is there something special, something concrete that you've enjoyed or found especially useful of the process?
Um, I think everything just as a whole package. Just because I remember in the beginning you were trying to find my level of Spanish and then trying to find out what was my interests and then trying to work out a plan, was it better for me to, maybe listen to podcasts or to watch different TV shows, or what was the thing that was going to interest me or get me more interested in the language. So after doing that, we found what worked best. So I think I like listening to podcasts, and now I'm watching TV shows in Spanish where I have the English subtitles, but I'm listening to it in Spanish, and I'm listening to more Spanish music, Spanish language music as well. So um, I think it's just whatever way you learn best. There's a way to do it. When it comes to speaking Spanish or learning Spanish. So it's my experience in school was just the textbook way, and that didn't work for me. And it doesn't have to be that way. I like the different exercises, and sometimes when I look at them, I think they're very simplified, but it needs to be that way. Um,
Yeah.
that's how just the repetition that's how it sinks in for me. And then obviously the group working with James as well helps a lot. Yeah, that's a massive. I think that's probably what took me up a level is doing the lessons with James rather than just doing them on my own. So yeah,
Yeah,
having
absolutely.
conversations. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, Connor, perfect. Anything else you want to add?
yeah. I suppose actually for me, because I've my wife's Spanish and her family's Spanish and stuff, getting to this level of Spanish now, it's probably going to improve my relationships with all of those people. So that's a massive benefit, and it almost feels like it's like there's a whole brand new world open up to me now. When I go to Spain or I go to any different Spanish speaking country, so I have a few friends that are living in South America as well. So I've even had the idea that maybe I want to go and spend some time there and spend a couple of months there. And that's a whole other world that's opened up to me, because I have this level of Spanish after 8 months. And then I'm even thinking, do I want to maybe leave Ireland to go live somewhere else, or do I want to change my job? Do I want to work in something else? So it's opened up a new world for me. I actually didn't tell you this, but when I was in Mallorca, so I took it as a chance to practice some of my Spanish on my own, and I was able to go and have breakfast and order my breakfast just using Spanish only. At the beginning, I was going to places where it was kind of focused on tourists, and when I would sit down, they would know I was an English speaker, so they would speak to me in English, even though I spoke to them in Spanish, and it was a bit awkward. So I thought I have to go and find more of where the locals eat. So I went away from the touristy areas and went in the streets further back, and I found some places where I knew there was locals eating, and I was able to just have the confidence to order order stuff, look at the menu and trying to order stuff and trying to describe stuff. There was a lot of pointing, but I was able to order and they were able to speak back to me in Spanish, and the whole conversation was in Spanish. So that was the first time that I've ever done that without another Spanish person there that I could rely on. And some of the things I knew that maybe I didn't have the vocabulary, but this time I had the confidence to just do it and to not look stupid or to feel silly or anything, and it kind of paid off. So I've done that a few times. I went for dinner by myself, I ordered by myself, and it kind of almost had like, it wasn't a conversation, but it was, an interaction beyond just ordering the food. And then as well as that, I had a few friends that they noticed that I was speaking more Spanish, and they were like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I was telling them I was taking some Spanish lessons, and so they were interested in learning Spanish, and they would come up to me and would say, "How do you say this?" or "How do you say that?" or "How can I ask the waiter this?" And I was able to tell them. I was actually surprised at how much I knew, comparing with them that knew very little. So it was a great experience to have. And like, I've been around Spanish speakers and with family members that only speak Spanish for 4 or 5 years, and only until my lessons with you I've had that confidence to use it. So it's been a great experience. Yeah.
Okay, how did you feel when you were able to have this conversation, this interaction in Spain?
Amazing, brilliant. I felt it was like a real buzz. I remember the first night that I'd done it. I went for dinner and sat down, and I had ordered a lot of food and sort of was interacting in Spanish and say goodbye and stuff. And then walking down the street, I remember going home and just thinking that I'd really achieved something. And I remember texting my wife and telling her, that I'd done it for the first time. So it was brilliant. Yeah.
Okay, and what about when you were chatting with these friends that were asking you things and you were able to to tell them how things worked in Spanish? How did you feel there?
Yeah, it felt great because it felt like you said, putting the time into doing the lessons and arranging obviously different times with busy schedule. Until I actually used it and had my friends noticing that it was paying off, I didn't really understand how much I was getting from the lessons and how much it was actually paying off. So it's getting that feedback. Obviously, you get feedback from you and from other people in the group, and that was the first time that I had feedback from my friends and my family as well. That were like, "Wow, you can speak Spanish," and I was like, "Oh, just a little bit." But for them, I was their translator for that week that I was there in Mallorca. So,
Wow,
yeah, pretty much.
that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's not only the self-perception of improvement, it's when others start realizing that you're making progress, you can speak
yeah,
Spanish, right?
yeah. So
Okay.
and as well, if they were asking me something, because once I had a few conversations or interactions in Spanish, they just assumed that I was fluent, and so they would ask me things, and I was like, "Oh, actually, I don't know that, but I can look it up. I can use some of the tools that you showed me, like even if it was ChatGPT, or I was able to try and think about what the sentence was in English and try and translate it as best as I possibly could into Spanish, in some sort of way that would make sense." And I suppose it was fine because a lot of people there actually spoke English, so I had that to fall back on. But for the most part, I was able to teach them on the spot a bit of Spanish, and they were able to use it, so it was great. And that happened then as the week went on. Their own Spanish started to improve, and it ended up they wanted to take lessons too. So
Okay, so
yeah,
you're now even able to teach some
yeah,
your friends Spanish. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Some
Um,
bits.
yeah, so this is not just learning a language, it's being able to improve my relationship with my family, open up a new world to travel South America, Spain, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right, Connor, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And yeah, that's it. Again, anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to add?
No, just thanks for the lessons and thanks for doing what you're doing.
Okay, perfect. I'm super excited to continue with you and James. I know we're gonna get very, very far.
Thank you.
All right, Connor. So I'll see you in a bit.
Great. Yeah.
Venga, un
See you soon.
abrazo. Nos vemos.
Adios.
Chao.
Ciao.